You're watching a movie. Nobody died. Nothing tragic happened. A dog just got reunited with its owner at an airport, and somehow your eyes are welling up like you personally know this dog. Or maybe you're at a wedding, completely happy, watching two people you barely know say their vows, and you're wiping your face like you just got dumped. Or the weirdest one, you're simply overwhelmed, everything's fine, nothing's actually wrong, and you just start crying. No trigger, no tragedy, just tears, showing up uninvited. So what is actually happening here? Why does the human body produce tears during moments that have absolutely nothing to do with pain, sadness, or danger? The answer isn't that you're broken or too emotional. The answer is that crying was never really about sadness in the first place. And once you understand what it's actually for, those random tears are going to make a lot more sense. Let's start with something that should surprise you immediately. Humans are the only species on the entire planet known to cry emotional tears. Not tears from irritation, not tears from cutting an onion. Actual tears triggered purely by feeling. Elephants trumpet in distress, dogs whine. But no other animal on Earth has been documented producing tears from something as abstract as watching a stranger's wedding. That alone should tell you crying isn't some leftover biological glitch. It's something evolution specifically built into us, and specifically only us. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Scientists actually classify tears into 3 completely different categories, and most people have no idea. There are basal tears, the ones constantly coating your eyes to keep them from drying out. There are reflex tears, triggered by irritants like smoke or onions. And then there are psychic tears, more commonly called emotional tears. And these are the weird ones. Researcher William Frey, one of the pioneers of tear research, discovered in the 1980s that emotional tears have a completely different chemical makeup than the other 2 types. They contain higher levels of stress hormones, including a compound called ACTH, along with natural pain-relieving endorphins. Which means when you cry from emotion, your body isn't malfunctioning. It's chemically flushing something out. But if crying is just about releasing stress hormones, why do we cry during happy moments too? This is the part that confuses almost everyone, and it has a name: Dimorphous expression. Researchers at Yale, led by psychologist Oriana Aragon, found that humans have a strange habit of expressing intense, positive emotions using behaviors normally associated with negative ones. That's why people cry at weddings, squeeze puppies a little too hard while saying "I could just die," or clench their fists watching something adorable. Aragon's research found this isn't random at all. It's the brain's way of regulating emotional intensity. When a feeling, positive or negative, becomes too big to contain, the body reaches for whatever release valve is available, and sometimes that valve is tears, even when nothing is remotely sad. So crying, in a strange way, isn't the opposite of joy. It might just be what emotional overload looks like, regardless of which direction the emotion came from. Now here's a theory that takes this even further, and it comes from evolutionary psychology. Some researchers argue crying evolved specifically as a social signal, not a private release. Unlike sweating or blushing, tears are highly visible, impossible to hide, and instantly recognizable from a distance. A 2013 study published in Evolutionary Psychology, led by researcher Robert Provine, found that emotional tears physically change the human face in a way that makes it look weaker, more vulnerable, and more in need of connection. In other words, crying might have evolved as an honest signal, a way of broadcasting "I am overwhelmed, I need support" that couldn't easily be faked. And here's the twist: this doesn't just apply to sadness. Crying during overwhelming joy sends the exact same social signal. "I am experiencing something too big to process alone. Come closer." But wait, if crying is a social signal, why do so many people cry when they're completely alone, with no one around to see it? This is where it gets even more interesting. Researchers believe crying didn't just evolve to signal others. It evolved to regulate you. Multiple studies have found that a good cry measurably lowers heart rate and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for calming you down after stress. So even in complete isolation, crying isn't pointless. Your body is still using the exact same tool, just aimed inward instead of outward. It's simultaneously a message to others and a reset button for yourself, which might be the most efficient multitasking your biology does. Here's a detail that surprises almost everyone. Not all crying is created equal, and how you cry actually depends on personality and attachment style. Research from psychologist Jonathan Rottenberg has found that people with certain attachment patterns cry more easily during moments of vulnerability, closeness, or relief. Not because they're weaker emotionally, but because their nervous system reaches its overload threshold faster. This is also why some people cry during arguments even when they're not sad, but simply overstimulated. It's not weakness, it's a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, just doing it earlier than someone else's would. So then why do so many people feel embarrassed crying when nothing is technically wrong? Mostly culture, not biology. In many societies, crying gets tied almost exclusively to weakness or sadness, so when tears show up during joy, relief, or overwhelm, people assume something must be broken, either in the moment or in themselves. But biologically, crying was never reserved for tragedy. It was built as a general-purpose release valve for anything that overwhelms the nervous system, positive or negative, and somewhere along the way, society just decided to only give it credit for one of those jobs. Here's the part that should genuinely sit with you for a second. A stranger's wedding overwhelms you, and your body reaches for tears. A reunion you have no personal stake in cracks something open anyway. A moment of pure relief floods the system, and tears become the only exit. A nervous system with nowhere else to put the feeling chooses the oldest release humans have ever had. You were never crying because something was wrong. You were crying because something was finally too much to hold silently. So the next time tears show up uninvited during a movie, a proposal, a reunion, or a random Tuesday when everything is objectively fine, don't reach for the question, "What's wrong with me?" The real question your body is quietly answering is, "What's too big for me to carry without releasing it?" And the answer almost always is nothing broken at all. Just a feeling that finally found its exit. We spent centuries treating tears as proof that something painful happened. Sometimes tears are just proof that something mattered. If this changed how you think about crying for no obvious reason, hit subscribe, because next time we're going even deeper into the strange, involuntary things your body does that science is still trying to fully explain. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most random thing that's ever made you unexpectedly tear up?